Right now, 3 white wolves are alive on a secured reserve somewhere in the United States. They have thick, pale fur, wide skulls, and jaws bigger than any grey wolf living today. They retreat from humans, even from the handlers who raised them from birth. They howl differently from grey wolves. They are growing faster than grey wolves. The company that built them says they are direwolves. The direwolf went extinct 12,500 years ago, and Colossal Biosciences says it just brought them back. Within weeks, some of the world's top biologists said that was not true. Then, Colossal's own chief scientist said something that nobody expected. This is the full story of Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, and why what these 3 animals actually are depends on a question science has not fully answered yet. Part 1. What Colossal actually did. To understand what happened, you need to understand what de-extinction actually means in practice, because it does not mean what most people think it means. You cannot take a sample of ancient DNA and grow a direwolf from scratch. Ancient DNA is damaged, fragmented, full of gaps. The older it is, the worse the damage gets. A complete working genome from a 12,500-year-old animal does not exist in any laboratory on Earth. What you can do is find the closest living relative of the extinct animal. Compare its genome to the best ancient DNA sample you have. Identify the specific differences, and then edit the living animal's DNA to make it closer to the extinct one. That is what Colossal did. They took grey wolves. They extracted DNA from 2 direwolf fossils. One was a 13,000-year-old tooth found in a cave in Ohio. The other was a 72,000-year-old ear bone found in Idaho. From those samples, they assembled the best direwolf genome they could build and identified 20 specific genetic changes across 14 genes that separated the direwolf from the grey wolf. Then they edited those 20 changes into grey wolf cells. The edited cell nucleus was transferred into a donor egg, developed into an embryo, and implanted into surrogate hound mixes chosen for their overall health and their size, since they would be carrying large pups. 2 male pups were born on October 1st, 2024. They were named Romulus and Remus. A female pup named Khaleesi was born on January 30th, 2025. 3 animals, alive, growing, real. Part 2. What the pups actually look like. This part is not in dispute. The physical results are documented and visible. By 6 months of age, Romulus and Remus had thick white fur, broad heads, and weighed approximately 80 pounds each. They are projected to reach 6 feet in length and 150 pounds at full maturity. That is larger than most grey wolves. The coat is different. The skull shape is wider. The jaw structure is more powerful. When you put Romulus and Remus next to a standard grey wolf, the visual difference is real and immediate. Their behavior is also distinctly non-domestic. They keep their distance from humans. They flinch and retreat, even from the handlers who raised them from birth. This is not a dog's behavior. This is the behavior of a wild wolf that has never been told the world is safe. George R.R. Martin, the author who created the fictional direwolves in Game of Thrones and an investor in Colossal, flew out to see them. He said, the experience stirred him the way no scientific news had since Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. The pups are not a rendering. They are not a simulation. They are alive right now on a 2,000-acre reserve being monitored around the clock by security personnel, drones, and live camera feeds. Part 3. Why scientists pushed back immediately. Within days of the announcement, something unusual happened. Scientists did not celebrate. They pushed back, hard and publicly. The core argument is simple. A grey wolf has approximately 19,000 genes. Colossal edited 20 of them. That is roughly 0.1% of the total genome. The question every biologist immediately asked was the same. Is 0.1% of genetic change enough to call an animal a different species? Leading evolutionary biologists and paleoecologists came out publicly within days. The consensus from independent scientists was fast and clear. What Colossal built is a genetically modified grey wolf, not a direwolf, and calling it one was misleading to the public. But the criticism went deeper than just the species label. Scientists pointed out that every single one of the 20 genetic edits Colossal made targeted physical appearance. Coat colour, skull shape, body size, jaw structure. No effort was made to identify or recreate genes linked to behaviour. This is a significant point. The direwolf was not just a shape, it was a predator with specific hunting behaviour, specific social structures, and specific cognitive patterns built over hundreds of thousands of years. The pups look like a version of a direwolf. Whether they think like one, hunt like one, or function in an ecosystem like one is completely unknown, because that part was never attempted. The IUCN Species Survival Commission officially declared that the three animals are neither direwolves nor proxies of direwolves under its guidelines for creating proxies of extinct species. MIT Technology Review placed the Colossal Direwolf project on their list of the 8 worst technology flops of 2025, citing the IUCN response and arguing the project may actively harm current conservation efforts by misleading the public about what de-extinction can deliver. Part 4. What Colossal's own scientists said. Here is the moment that changed the entire conversation. In May 2025, about a month after the announcement, Colossal's own chief scientist, Beth Shapiro, stated publicly that the 3 animals are grey wolves with 20 edits. She acknowledged that it is impossible to bring back an organism identical to a species that used to be alive. She admitted that calling them direwolves is a colloquialism, not scientific terminology. Read that again. The chief scientist of the company that made the announcement publicly said the animals are grey wolves with 20 edits, and that the direwolf label is not scientifically accurate. This was not a small admission. This was Colossal's own lead scientist drawing a clear line between what they built and what the headlines said they built, and it raised a question that nobody has cleanly answered since. If Colossal's own scientists knew from the beginning that these were not technically direwolves, why were they announced to the world as the first de-extincted animals in history? Part 5. What is actually true? Here is what nobody disputes. The science Colossal developed to build these 3 animals is genuinely significant, regardless of what you call the result. The project set a scientific record for the highest number of deliberate genome edits in any living animal in history. The tools and techniques developed to build the pups were immediately applied to the critically endangered red wolf, producing 4 healthy pups from 3 different genetic founder lines. Scientists estimate this could increase the genetic diversity of the captive red wolf population by 25%. That is a real conservation outcome with no asterisk attached. The technology works. The ability to extract ancient DNA, reconstruct a partial genome, identify key differences from a living relative, and edit those differences into living cells is a genuine advancement. It has real applications, not just for de-extinction, but for saving species that are still here and still running out of time. The disagreement is not about the technology, it is about the name. And the name matters because what you call something shapes what people believe is possible. If the public thinks a direwolf has been fully brought back from extinction, they may start to believe that extinction itself is reversible, that we can lose species now and recover them later, that the biodiversity crisis has a technological solution sitting in a lab waiting to be deployed. Several biologists have argued publicly that this belief is more dangerous than any single misleading headline, because it removes urgency from a problem that has no time left for comfort. What it means. Romulus and Remus are 6 months old. Khaleesi is younger. They are running across a 2,000-acre reserve right now. They are growing. They are healthy. They howl differently from grey wolves. They behave like wild animals and not domesticated ones. Whether they are dire wolves depends entirely on what you decide a species actually is. If a species is a set of physical traits, these animals qualify. If a species is a complete genome, a behavioral profile, an ecological role, a lineage that goes back hundreds of thousands of years, then Colossal built something new. Something that did not exist before April 2025. Something that is not quite a grey wolf, and not quite a dire wolf, and not quite anything science has a clean category for yet. That might be the most honest description of what is living on that reserve right now. 3 animals that are entirely new to the earth, built from ancient instructions. Running through a landscape their original template disappeared from 12,500 years ago. Whether that counts as resurrection depends on what you think was lost. If the science of what animals are and what makes them different is what keeps you watching, our last video goes deeper into exactly that. Watch, baboons tear a spotted hyena to shreds next. No controversy, no debate. Just what millions of years of evolution built, running at full speed with nowhere left to go.